Hello everyone and welcome to the Transfer Rumour Show. It's a third one in this week because there's so much happening in the world out there and we want to tell you all about it. I've got another two fantastic minds alongside me. And Melia, who's been away for a while since Madrid, haven't you?
Yeah, this is my first thing I've done since the final. Did we win?
I believe we did, yes.
That's good, I thought we did.
That might have been why no one's seen you in all this time.
Went on the missing list.
Yeah.
Someone who hasn't gone on the missing list, we all know where you've been. We can have a look at you.
Yeah, I know,
Mr.
right.
James Sutton just come back from his honeymoon in Acapulco, was it?
Acapulco? No.
Where was it?
I was in Mexico.
Oh, Mexico.
Tulum.
Oh, okay. See, sorry. It's the only place in Mexico I can really ring off the top of my head, so, you know.
No one go. Does anyone go to Acapulco?
I don't know. It's a song.
The magic is strong down there.
This guy. Right, let's get into transfers, shall we? I did say there's a lot to talk about, so let's start doing it. First name off the list is someone, if you were listening on Tuesday, you may have heard Robbo mention him. It's Donny van der Beek of Ajax. Now, there's a guy in Holland called Marcel van der Bron who told Sky Sports that we are one of many clubs who have been scouting him over the past 12 months. He's a very talented young midfielder. I'm sure if you watched the Champions League run, you did, didn't you? You'd have seen him in many big games. Now, the issue for him, really, is if you look at our squad, Adam, we've got quite a few players who want to play in central midfield. Do you think he's someone who we should be prioritising? Do you think he's someone who can force his way into the side?
So I think the thing that sets him out apart from what I've seen is I would say he's a goal-scoring midfielder, and I think so. His goal against Juventus away was like maybe the moment of that Ajax run, because that was the one where it's like not just, you know, you've obviously they've knocked Real Madrid out, but you know that could have been a freak result, and that when that goes in in the second leg, that was, you know, the moment, and that was kind of my first sort of experience of watching a whole game with him in. And yeah, I think he's probably playing in that Henderson position, but like I think his instinct is to be even more attacking. The most recent Henderson position, and yeah, I think we're looking at that sort of player. You know, I think you can take an aggregate of the rumours sometimes to see what positions we're looking at, and you know, you could say we've never replaced Coutinho, so it's a you know, really attacking midfielder. There's something there which we've said in the past is still a gap, although we're filling it in different ways. So I'm saying yeah.
Okay. Well, we want to look a little bit more about exactly how he plays and exactly how he may well fit into a Jurgen Klopp team. So we've got another one of our radar section. Let's wait and see who's on the job.
I'm delighted to talk about Van der Beek, to be quite honest with you, and the reason why is because I think he's the absolute business. He was arguably the one I was most impressed with throughout Ajax's run. It was his presence of mind, his calm, and if we look at his radar here as an attacking midfielder, in that context, 10 touches in the box for an attacking midfielder across 90 minutes is absolutely unbelievable. That's the one there, that's at about 2 o'clock. 10 touches in the box, you can see how far out it is on the radar by the standards of any attacking midfielder or winger. It is absolutely different class. And you can see that as well when I talk about the calm. If you want to begin to interpret these numbers, he's not having a ton of shots. He's not all about having a ton of shots. It's fewer than 2 shots a game. But his XG per shot is relatively high. It suggests his decision-making is really, really strong. XG per shot is over at about 11 o'clock there on it as you look. Shots at about 1 o'clock. He doesn't try a bunch of crosses. He's not rash in that regard. He doesn't give the ball away. We can see that around his passing percentage. You know, the one thing that's really interesting as well, he doesn't win many fouls. And you might say, well, what does that mean? Well, it means he's not trying to carry the ball particularly. There's not a ton of successful dribbles. He's a footballer who's switched on, whose brain is switched on, and it makes comparisons easy in one sense, but also really rather difficult or unlikely in the other. So he's nowhere near, in fact I'll come on to him in a minute, the first one that I asked StatsBomb to pull was Dele Alli. And if you have a little look at Dele Alli there, you know, he's on the ball in the box much more, Van der Beek, he really is. And you can say, well, it's the Dutch league, but it is worth pointing out that, you know, Tottenham finished third in the Premier League. They're not a bad side, they are on top in games on the whole, more so than you'd expect there. You know, you can go right the way through and look at a lot of these different numbers. You know, all right, Ali draws a few more fouls, a little bit more dribbles, but on the whole you prefer Van der Beek's numbers. The one marked difference is the pressure regains over, pointing at about 10 o'clock. The pressure regains there are significantly better for Dele Alli, but on the whole, you know, that's absolutely fine. Van der Beek there looks like a footballer in the class of Dele Alli, and you saw that when they shared a pitch across the 2 games. The dead interesting one is this: Van der Beek and David Silva they don't look like the same player, and they've never really had the same profile of footballer right the way through. You know, Van der Beek, obviously he is younger, but Silva's always been the silky number 10 type, and that's not really Van der Beek's thing, but it almost shadows here. I mean, obviously there's a significant difference if you look down about 5 o'clock in terms of the XG assisted aspects of this, you know, and that's a lot of that's down to how City play. Almost every City player outranks every other player in Europe on that regard, on that metric, but everything else is about the same. Van der Beek profiling really, really similar to David Silva. He's a footballer I don't see Liverpool going for him, I'll be really honest. I don't think it's likely Liverpool go for him, but I think that if they did, I'd be really excited by him. I think he looks like a cracking prospect, a cracking talent. Someone this summer or next will pick up Donny van der Beek and they'll get themselves a proper player.
So there we go, clearly a talented and exciting player. Now, from my own personal perspective, one of the things I've always liked about Donny van der Beek is he's got that natural ability to find space in a packed midfield, and he can find a pass. And I think, James, if you maybe try to extrapolate ahead to next season, think about how some of the opposing managers are going to look to try and tackle us. I think Robbo and Trent are going to be quite big in everyone's game plan. So if they're trying to close off their space, there may be more space in the middle for a talent like him to exploit.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see an argument on both sides. I can see a reason why we would be interested in a player like this, and actually a reason why we wouldn't. I think you're absolutely right. I think teams are going to look at stopping us down the flanks. I think that's a given. We've had most of our success there. I think this season, the stats alone, and Van der Beek's had he's had a really good run. You know, I think he got nine goals in his league and 10 assists. I think last season.
It's good numbers.
Which is really good return for a player of that in that position. What I would say though is that we've got Naby Keita getting back to full fitness. Oxlade-Chamberlain, of course, is going to be chomping at the bit to get back into the first team. So there is going to be a kind of a sort of hierarchy to that position. Everyone's going to want to play there. But to counteract my own argument for the second time,
okay.
And I said this on the show I've just done with Gareth. The reason that Man City finished a point ahead of us in the league was because they had a better bench than us. That's kind of a given. So we should be looking to improve our bench. Does he improve our bench in that position? That would be my argument as to whether or not we get him. But he's obviously a very talented boy. You know, I know Everton have looked at him.
Yes.
Newcastle have looked at him. So he is in demand. For the right price, a squad player, yeah, why not?
It's an interesting point when you consider the whole squad and bench sector. My gut feeling is that maybe he was someone we were looking at thinking that maybe Milner might not be here next season, but obviously we know that he's in talks over a new deal, Adam. So, I mean, do you agree with James? Do you think we need to be looking for bench people?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is a clear. It's a clear sort of difference in a way when you look at last season between ours and City's bench, but then when you kind of include into that the players that we didn't have available, just like James, I can see both sides. I think sometimes you have to kind of think, well, be a bit ruthless about it and think, what do we know? You know, we know that this player's had a great season and is fit, whereas the other ones, although we're full of confidence and really want them to be back and doing as much as they can, somebody like Oxlade-Chamberlain has never had the greatest fitness record, and so if you're looking at if you're saying this is something we need all season, then I can understand why these links to this sort of player are happening. And like I say, that's been my approach to thinking about transfer windows, summer transfer windows, since Klopp's come in, is you don't know who necessarily we're going to get, but you kind of know which sorts of players we're looking at, and I think that's if you're saying, well, where is that person going to even fit on the bench, you've kind of got to think, what have we been able to rely on last season, and we haven't been able to rely on Keita and Oxlade-Chamberlain.
No, it's a fair point. Okay, so it's time for the Mo scale, I think, where we decide exactly how likely we think this is to happen. Adam, I'll start with you since you're on a roll.
Despite what I've said, I don't reckon we're getting him. So probably a 2.
2 Mo's.
Yeah.
Two Mo's.
How many is it out of?
5.
Yeah, 2.
Okay. James, what are you saying?
3 Mo's.
3. So
Yeah, just for the reasons we've said, really. I think if he fits the template, if he's someone that could potentially improve the squad, if he could be improved as well, if he's someone that Klopp could work with and make into a world beater like he does with most lads, then I think it's positive. But for the same reasons, that's why we wouldn't get him. So yeah, okay. 3 Mo's.
Well, I'm probably siding slightly more with Adam on this one. just because I can see it being somewhere where we only get 2 or 3, and there's probably 2 or 3 others in other areas we're going to go for. But it may well just end up being another fantastic player who ends up somewhere else, which is a bit of a shame, but we'll have to wait and see. Now, okay, we had our news section in the last show, and it was so successful that we decided to bring it back. So let me just get my papers here. It's not my phone.
Is that the paper that you've just written news on? There's literally nothing else. It just says.
I'm reading off my phone. You kind of kill the magic, but like let's power on, shall we?
The day-to-day.
News.
I wanted to remind myself of when it was coming.
Right.
God. Okay, so here is the news. Now, first of all, basically the news, I should explain, is mainly going to be about people we've already spoken about before. So this is going to be short, bite-sized chunks of news to keep you updated. First of all, someone we have spoken about before, Bruno Fernandes. There's been lots of links talking about us having lodged a bid. I said it myself here on the show a couple of days ago. Well, that's not entirely true. Unfortunately, those reports aren't true. Now, we have been speaking with Sporting Lisbon, but that's only in relation to them buying Rafa Camacho from us. We are not interested in Bruno Fernandes.
Boo.
Is that both?
Cold water news. It's the worst kind.
Well, okay.
I liked him. I watched the YouTube videos and everything.
Yeah.
So I feel like this is a
You
real.
got stuck into a montage and now you're a fan.
But maybe that's why. Because sometimes I've considered it to be bad luck. If you watch the YouTube, then.
See, what is definitely bad luck is if the YouTube is called Welcome to Liverpool.
Yeah.
Guys, stop doing that,
Yeah.
please. Please stop doing that.
No.
Okay, on with the news. Polish goalkeeper and under-21 star Kamil Grabara looks like he's going to be sent out on loan for another season. Any of you who watched Italy against Poland last night, saw my boy Chiesa, didn't you? You would have also seen Kamil Grabara having a very, very good game. He was on loan in the second half of last season to Aarhus, which isn't at the end of our street, it's actually in Denmark. But it seems like he's still not quite ready for first team action yet, so he's going to be going out on loan next year. Okay, finally, more keeper news. Someone who I also spoke about as potentially coming in. We did a long, big stint on him, Mr. Alex McCarthy. Well, David Lynch, the killer himself, is here to tell me that no, we aren't actually interested in Alex McCarthy at all.
Bad news, Lynch.
Yes, but actually, Chris Beasley in the Echo backs him up, and he goes a little bit further as to say that the links with McCarthy are actually from the Rodgers era, not even from Jurgen Klopp, which makes me think that maybe McCarthy's agent's been making a little bit of mischief there. And to be fair, who would blame him? You'd want to throw our name in if you or a client was trying to be shopped around for somewhere anyway. Speaking of which, in that same article from Chris Beasley, someone else who you probably didn't hear of, a defensive utility player, Dorkan Tokosh.
That was good.
Yeah,
It was really good.
Worth the pause,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
that
Thank
was
you.
well worth the breath. Well worth the breath.
Well, you may not have heard of him. You probably don't need to hear about him. He's not on our radar either. He's can play defensive midfield or right back. He's currently playing for Besiktas. He's been a link with Udinese, and again, it sounds like their agents tried to throw our name in to bump a little bit of traffic up. So you don't have to worry about him. Trust me, we're not going to hear much more about him in the summer. So that was the news section. Stay tuned for more in later episodes. But now, we've got another big talking point to dive into. There's an article that came out just this morning, actually, by our friends over at Transfer Markt, which has graded the top 20 teams in European football based on their squad value. You'll be pleased to know that Liverpool are apparently worth £1 billion. You'll be probably slightly less pleased to know that it's another table in which Liverpool comes second to Manchester City. And be quietly amused to know that it's a table that actually features Everton at number 20. But I mean, wow.
Yeah.
Now, the context for this is the fact that you're probably hearing a lot of noise from our rivals at the moment, particularly Manchester United, who are making big moves in the transfer market right now. And there's been no real concrete links from anyone reliable about Liverpool trying to get a player as we speak. That doesn't mean to say they're not trying, they're just probably hiding it quite well. But Adam, with this news about how valuable we are, can we afford to be a bit more patient in the transfer market and not be quite so, oh, we've not got anyone in yet?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, if I examine my own stress levels, I am not at all stressed.
You look rather calm.
And I have been in the past, you know, really keen to get players in early and blah, blah, blah. And I think that this, and each summer has a different character to it, and this one seems just odd. Mm-hmm. So I think there is a value, and we are very lucky, and the club's done really well to get us into the position where, yes, we can sit back and then potentially get some, you know, get some value at the end. It's like if you've ever played a sort of transfer game show, and you know when the kind of the clock ticks over and you can see what's left, then we might be in that position. The only thing I would say is that I guess we've got a lot of players who we've talked about needing a rest, and so being able to get some really good one or two really good players in at this stage, you know, at the start, so they can have the full Klopp pre-season, would seem a wise move. So that's I guess my only slight nervousness. But I think that, you know, I don't know about the value necessarily, and you know, there's all sorts of books being cooked in clubs worldwide, isn't there? So who really knows?
Well, I mean, as far as I'm aware, this report is based on not only the actual last transfer value of the player, but also their last 12 months performance, because what it does tell you, James, is that in the last 12 months, we've basically jumped up from 6th place to 2nd. So we've overtaken teams like Barcelona, Chelsea, Paris Saint-Germain, Atletico Madrid. So we're obviously on an upward curve. And these are things that players are going to be aware of as well. So when it comes to recruitment, yes, it's sometimes you can lose out if you wait a while. But I think we're in a position where more of our first choices are going to want to wait to see if we are interested.
We're, for the first time in, God, probably my lifetime, we are probably the most attractive proposition in world football. I think. I think as a template of how to run a football club, this is the pinnacle. I think every other club is looking at how Liverpool are doing their business, and a report like this that's come out and said that we are, you know, albeit to Manchester City. But if you look at where we were 4 years ago to where Man City were 4 years ago, they've actually not moved up a huge amount. Where our club has, you know, in every aspect of the club, from the marketing through to the training complex, through to the stadium, through to the players, everything is on the upward trajectory. So I mean, we are the most attractive proposition. So actually, I don't think we have to work that hard. You know, and hearing names like Mbappe being thrown around, I mean, you know, as much as we know he's not going to come to Liverpool, it's not going to happen. Get it out of your heads now. Stop writing things on Twitter, okay? It gets me too excited. He's not going to come. But to be spoken about in that context, in that conversation, is really exciting, and it is testament to the work that Klopp's done and where the club are. Actually, one thing I will say is that report about our team being that valuable, I actually think they've undervalued our players. Actually, if you look at some of the valuations, we got Van Dijk for 75, and I think he's now valued at like 90 million on that report. That's not true at all. There's a few more players like that. I think you could add another 10-15 onto Mo Salah. You could add another 10-15 onto Sadio Mane. Gini Wijnaldum is criminally undervalued on that report. It's something like 42 million. Not for my liking. So yeah, that was a very long-winded way of saying the Reds are really, really good right now.
Yeah.
The other factor, I guess, along with that is that we have. What made me think of it was how you're saying the way we run the club's being looked at as the benchmark. Along with that comes the fact that as soon as we get out there that we want a player, there's going to be a lot of competition, because people are going to be, we still haven't got the most money in the world, have we? So we can be blown out of the water if we make our interests too public. So.
But the way that we're doing business, like you were saying before, you know, about doing it behind closed doors and keeping things under wraps. Yeah. Again, you know, that, and this is probably why they're doing it, because they recognise that if it comes out, there will be a bidding war, because if we're interested in him, there's probably a good chance that he's boss.
Yeah.
So that's probably a good reason why there's been a bit of a vacuum, like you say, of concrete links for us as players. But trust in Michael Edwards and the team. You know that they're working behind the scenes to get someone in, and it's just going to be a big cover that just goes ta-da! And we're going to have another brand new start.
Mbappe!
Stop it! For God's sake!
Look, I basically said on the show this week that I'm not going to temper down any of those Mbappe things. I'm not even going to pretend to say that it's not definitely happening. It definitely is happening. Just have fun with it. Maybe don't show James though.
I don't shame you, man. I can't cope.
But big thank you to James and to Adam for coming on the show with me. There's going to be another one of these next week. My face probably won't be on it, but keep an eye out. There's going to be plenty more fantastic transfer rumour shows coming your way.